Welcome back to the Student Hub Live. We've had a fantastic day of talk about being OU students, and in this session we talked to two OU students from the Open University Students Association. So I am joined by Sheila Cameron and Sammi Wright. Thank you for joining us today. Yesterday we had a fantastic session where we were talking about, in fact, how some of your members had convinced their friends and family to all study with the Open University so that all their friends were OU students. And I know that OU students add so much warmth and support to each other. And in this session we wanted to focus specifically on two aspects that the association are involved with, which is the Disabled Students Group, or D.S.G, and also to talk about Plexus. So these two associated groups which we've been plugging and which we've got a lot of links to on the resources are ways that students can connect with students around specific areas. Sheila, can you tell us about the Disabled Students Group?
Right, the Disabled Students Group is about a fifth of the total of the students in the OU. And what we are is a group of students supporting students with any form of disability or difficulty in studying, because some students, when you see them, you would presume that they don't have any problems because they're hidden problems.
Yeah.
And a lot of our students have hidden problems.
So 1 in 5 OU students have problems or are a member of your group?
1 in 5 of the students register as disabled students, and every student that registers is a member of the Disabled Students Group.
Right, brilliant.
But not every student registers. So we know that there's a minimum of 1/5 of every student in the OU, because some students feel it's discriminating.
Yeah, we were talking to our student support team earlier, and I'm not sure if you saw, they were talking about the importance of profiling, of setting something up so that the Open University knew if there was a difficulty. And what they were telling us was that, you know, some things can be very clear, very obvious, very time-bound and fairly permanent. Other things could be very changeable. In particular, some of these unseen difficulties, for example, we were talking about depression yesterday and anxiety, and those can fluctuate and sometimes can be an incredible barrier, and at other times much less so. Also,
a lot of students don't realise that if they become a carer, even for short term, that can make a big difference. And if they then go onto their profile, and even for a short time put on their profile that they're having to care for a child if something's happened, or a partner, or a parent, or a friend, then the tutor then knows that. And then if they do need to go on and say, I'm struggling at the moment, someone's in hospital, can I get an extension of my TMA? It makes it so much easier for that student and the tutor.
And so many students have caring responsibilities. I'm thinking not just of caring for someone, but particularly, you know, perhaps caring for a house, raising children, etc. One of my students, her son shut her daughter's hand in the door today and she had to go to A&E. And so her caring responsibilities has really impacted on her ability to do something like submit an assignment today. So I guess it's this whole notion, again, of thinking about individual students, their individual needs and the extent to which they want to be able to communicate with the OU, reach out and have the OU help them, but also very importantly for students to support students. And this is, I guess, the difference between some of the student support team interventions and the Open University Students Association, because yours is all about peer support, isn't it?
Yes, and we're 24/7. The student support team, you have to contact them. Sometimes you have to wait on an answer.
Yeah.
It could be a Saturday.
Yeah.
It could be a Sunday night.
Yeah.
But if you contact us through one of our means, then somebody's normally there, because some of us are night owls.
Brilliant. Now, we've asked everybody whether or not you are considering yourself different, and you've got a choice on our voting tools here. You can say yes, no, or you don't know. Have you completed your profile? And by this profile, what we mean is not have you put a picture on there and uploaded a blog or something, because you can do some of that from your Open University student homepage. But if you've completed a profile in terms of notifying the Open University that you may have some difficulties, whether or not you have additional needs, irrespective of what they are, and again the answers are yes, no or don't know, because you may not know. And is there a Pride event taking place in your local area? So that's something we're going to touch on when we talk about Plexus. Now, Stephen, you're on the hot desk with HJ and you work in our student support team as well. And what Sheila's saying here is very much about this sort of idea that students sometimes at night can be wanting to support students, and also in the daytime or till 8 o'clock at night they would speak to their student support team. When you, in your role as an advisor, are speaking to students about those supports, do they share about how important peer-to-peer contact is and some of these networks and groups that they're involved with, as well as seeking more official support as you would give?
Absolutely, and it's a really big part, and we're really keen to emphasise it as well. Peer-to-peer support is really useful. Some students particularly can feel quite isolated, particularly if they're starting out, and really addressing that there are support networks out there. There are groups of people who feel just like you.
Yeah.
And we can just help with signposting them in the right direction. And really, the peer groups just take on they go on it alone and they just deal with it themselves. But we can intervene as necessary and just signpost to the right places, just so students don't feel alone.
Yeah.
Really.
No, it's really important. And like you say, sometimes in the middle of the night, if you are struggling with something, it can help, irrespective of what that problem is, just to know that there are like-minded people around who are also awake at that time of night. OK, Sammi, you work in the association, and we wanted to talk a little bit about Plexus. Briefly, what is Plexus?
So Plexus is for students, any students who define as being LGBT+. And Plexus stands for Pride, Learning, Equality, No Excuses, Unity and Safety. And so pretty much all of those words, it encompasses a very supportive network for anyone who wants to join, but also like people who want to attend Pride events together. And so they do lots of activities really, and they've just released their latest newsletter. So if anybody isn't a member, become a member and you can get access to that. And Plexus have just celebrated their first birthday as well, and they almost have 500 members, so they're doing really well.
Brilliant. And there are lots of events. I was looking on the website, actually, and just briefly, there's this LGBT History Month, and there's been stories of inspirational LGBT women. And I know a lot of colleagues in social sciences have been contributing to some of those as well. So you can look at it, I guess, from a student perspective as well as an academic perspective.
Sure.
They've also got quiz nights and association meetings, etc. And I've seen on Facebook about, all getting together, and it looks like you all have a really good time.
Yeah, and the association will be changing our logo as well to incorporate the rainbow flag. So for the entire month of February, on some of our platforms, you'll see it. Where we can make that change, we will. And also, I believe the new committee want to tackle the OU's gender policy as well, right. So that's something that they'll be working on.
Very topical. What are they going to do with that?
I don't know exactly. Obviously, it's a brand new committee, so they're obviously in the early stages of these conversations, but it's something to watch, definitely.
Now, we heard last night from the Open University Law Society about the benefits of being involved in societies, and indeed we've been speaking to members of the Students' Association about how that benefits them. What can students do to get in touch with USA about being involved in any sort of society? We've got a whole range of links that are on our resources page, but very briefly, Sammi, what ways can people get involved?
Well, there's various different ways. First and foremost, there's our website, which we always want students to go to as like a first point of call, but if there's something they're not really finding, then they can message us on Facebook or Twitter. They can send us an email directly, and we even have a telephone number if they'd want that actual, to hear a person's voice at the end of a phone. So there's loads of different ways students can contact us.
Brilliant, excellent. So let's talk about some of these experiences and I guess some of your sort of motivations for being involved and some of the things that you're hearing, Sheila, in particular, from other students. Being different, sort of identifying as different parameters, what does that feel like, and what are some of the things that impact in terms of study for a lot of people who you're involved with? And maybe you might want to share some of the things from your own story.
Some of our students won't go to tutorials, live tutorials. Some of our students won't speak on online tutorials because of possibly health issues. It could be that they're depressed. They might, if they're really lucky, click online and go on and sit in the background and listen. But even just that contact of signing in, some students can't do that, so they miss out a lot. They might not want to contact the tutor because you think, oh, I must be failing and all the rest of it. But then maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning, they come on to our closed Facebook site and say, oh, I can't keep going. And we've had that a lot. I can't keep going because it's usually during the night we get these things. And then someone will go, well, that happened to me 3 or 4 months ago. Do contact your student support team. Do contact your tutor. And then maybe a week later we get a message back saying, oh, well, I didn't decide to stop. I have managed to move on. I did get an extension. that little bit of help can make a big difference to someone. And yes, some students will defer. It's necessary for them at that particular time. But what you're trying to do is make sure that that student doesn't feel as if they're a failure, because deferring might be necessary for you. If your child has went into hospital, it's got a major operation coming up, you've got a TMA due in, but you've already done 2 and you've got them really good marks on them, defer, bank them and come back, because then you've got time. Whereas they might say, oh, that's it, I'm going to give up, I'm not going to go back to the OU. But we try to encourage them to contact the student support team and find out that it's not only them that that's happening to, because everybody feels that no matter what happens to you, it's only me that's happening to.
Yeah, it's really important. We were talking earlier with John and George about how some students can think I'm alone in this, and they don't realise that so many other people, just because you physically can't see each other, are in exactly the same position, and they're not reaching out. And I mean, I know what it's like, because I wouldn't go into a room if someone said, come to this room. I'd be like, well, what's going to happen in this room, and what's going to be there, and what's it going to be like, and can I get out of it? And so to some extent, you know, I can understand why students might not want to even step foot in an online tutorial if they don't know what it's about. So how do your group sort of tell people what it's about and sort of say, I mean, we've heard in the chat, you know, today people are saying, oh, well, this was my experience, that was my experience, and those sort of things can really help. How does your group and the groups around sort of try to explain what goes on in those groups and thereby encourage students to attend and participate in things that are right for them? Because it's not right for everybody, but for those who want to go but are maybe anxious.
Well, we've just started with the new Adobe Connect, as we all know, and it's in its infancy with everyone.
Yeah.
And a lot of the tutorials are on Adobe Connect. So we've now, the D.S.G started doing regular fortnight meetups on Adobe Connect with students. And that just lets them come in and test it out before they have to get this online version and realise that, oh, well, it wasn't quite so bad when I was with them. And I might have had a hiccup getting in, but once I get in, I could sit back, but then I did participate the second time I went in. So that helps as well. You also get other students saying, well, I have the same problems as you, but I went on and told my tutor X, Y and Z and that helped me. So yeah, we've got both sides, so we're trying to give as much wide experience as possible.
Let's take a quick trip to the help desk, because in addition to talking about biscuits, which is very common at this time of day, people are talking about health issues and about whether or not they would go to an online tutorial. Stephen and HJ.
Well, we've just been having a good chat about the different ways that our OU studies are supported, whether it's tutors or the student support teams. And we all always know there's someone out there like feeling the same thing or in the same situation. So we know we can get our degrees and go through it. And Jade says she agrees that the tutors are also a great support, and there's great support for mental health in the OU. And she likes going to some of the chats that are put on by the Students' Association as well, to connect with others and not feeling alone as well. And she also agreed that Casa Keem's are her favourite as well, so that's good to know on top of all of that.
And I hear Jade's struggling not to go for the biscuits.
Yes, I think we all are.
So we asked people at home whether or not they consider themselves different. At last count, 54% of them said yes. Being different can be really, really good. I mean, it's a label that I think used to have negative connotations, whereas now it's often very positive, and we often celebrate this difference. And in particular with Plexus, you know, it is about really recognising those aspects. And I guess to some extent, perhaps networking and making the most of those experiences and contacts and connections.
Yeah, I think I'd say that's where the safety and the unity, the words come from in the Plexus acronym, because it's a place to embrace difference and like feel safe to do so, and there's no intimidation whatsoever, so it's really nice.
We also asked people whether they'd completed their profile. 27% said that they didn't know, which is understandable because this word profile, like with so many things, can be very nebulous. But 36% have and 36% haven't. Whether or not people have additional needs, right now in the live chat, 58% of them said that they didn't. However, we were talking to the student support team again about the sort of conception of additional needs and what students might need at any one time, and again about how the OU can help, and that if students don't necessarily know what sorts of things are out there, they might not know what they might be able to take advantage of. Has any of that been your experience?
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes, especially with hidden difficulties, people don't realise that that is an additional need. People don't even realise that family commitments are an additional need. If you're pregnant, you have a baby, you're halfway through your degree, baby comes early. So you planned it, oh well, I'll finish, I'll get my EMA finished, and then baby's coming in the summer, and then baby decides to come early. Bank it, and then wait till later on. That's an additional need. Or your mum has an accident and needs extra help. That's an additional need because it impacts on you, not impacts on your mum, but it impacts on you too. So it's not just things that's individual to yourself, it's also to do with people round about you as well. And you might have an accident and break your leg and you're taking painkillers, and somebody takes painkillers, it makes a big difference. You think that you're studying, but it doesn't go in.
No.
So
no.
that might last you 8, 12 weeks, and it could be an important bit.
I think it's difficult because, you know, like you say, so often you cannot really recognise when things might impact. I mean, I had a baby and thought, oh, now I'm going to have loads of spare time, which was a mistake. But again, sometimes it's about recognising when you can and can't ask for help. Now, I know that in addition to the sort of camaraderie, sharing and support and things that happen on your Facebook group in particular and at some of the meetups, that clearly has a really huge, phenomenal role to play. But I know that you also share very practical tips and advice, and I think this can really have an impact. It's often something that we see in our live chat at Student Hub where people are saying, okay, yeah, I have this sort of problem and what I do is X or I do Y, and people go, oh yeah, that's a brilliant idea. So sharing those experiences not only gives you some sense of giving back to a community and making you perhaps feel good that you've done that sort of tip as well, but also it can really add to someone's, you know, ability to study as an Open University student. Can you tell us about some of those practical ways that those groups can actually help people?
Well, when I first joined the OU, when I came back, I didn't even know that there was a Disability Students Allowance that you could get to buy the practical things that are not cheap. And when I did that and I found it, yeah, that was brilliant, but I'd already done a module and struggled my way through it. I passed because it was a level 1 and you only needed 40% to pass. But if I had the equipment in earlier, I could have got an awful lot more out of that module. So when I eventually found it, I was 9 months through my studies. We've had some students come onto Facebook and they're 2 and 3 years through their studies and then they apply for it. So there's lots of things that we bring up to help people. Just the same as some students will say, oh, somebody told me to buy so-and-so. And I'll say, but have you applied for a Disability Students Allowance? Or another student will maybe say, oh, that's brilliant, but you can get a free version if you do this, that and the next thing. Or somebody might ask, is that good if you're doing this? And you get recommendations. We never say it's a real answer or a wrong answer, because for one person, that particular thing might work. It might not work for somebody else. I have a couple of versions of screen readers, because for my science modules, one particular one worked and another one worked for something else. So we give information, and it's up to themselves what they do with it. And that's all.
We did a session once on studying with dyslexia, and we had a tool that students could use that might indicate whether or not this could be a problem, and then they could go off and do things. It was really, really useful, and one of the things that really struck me is something that this was an example where students often didn't know that perhaps they had a problem. And I saw students having real interventions, very simple things like, you know, filters and different coloured you know, things that they could use to, I can't remember the term, but, you know, there's different sort of lenses that you could use to read pages, different formats, different font sizes. Very, very simple things that made a phenomenal difference to the way that they study. And so I think that, you know, often when things are more complex, you've got great ideas and often great troubleshooting ways of using technology and the very simple things in life, like, you know, a piece of clear plastic, that can actually change the way that people can study.
But now, at one time, when you went on to the OU websites and onto the sites or USA ones, you were left with this particular, and you couldn't change it. Now you press the accessibility button and you filter it to suit yourself. And then once you go back to your study, it's maybe greyed out for you, it's maybe yellow in the background, as you say, or green, depending on what you need, or it might be brighter, it might be lower, but that's built in now. And the OU is making a vast difference on accessibility than what they ever did before.
And I think these things are important, and we've mentioned earlier in other sessions about the importance of feeding into, you know, governance and committees. But again, having representatives from the disabled students group involved in some of the ways that the OU are making some of the materials on the virtual learning environment can be really important, because we've got accessibility teams designing things, but when we've got lived experience saying, actually, hang on, this can make a difference. So that's also a very important part of contributing to things, and again, making sure that for other students, things are as good as they can be.
And the OU is getting a lot better at asking. We do get asked a lot of questions now. We get asked at the beginning instead of the end, when it's a bit more difficult to tweak it and get it. And accessibility has been built in now to modules at the beginning. There's some old modules still there that are a little bit more of a struggle, but an awful lot in the last 5 years has happened. And accessibility is now more upfront, and testing's done an awful lot now, more than it used to ever be done. And they're asking current students for feedback, which didn't used to happen.
No, absolutely. It's very, very important, as you say, at the beginning rather than the end. So it's great to see changes being, implemented, not only because of, political and policy reasons, but also because of the involvement of groups like the Disabled Students Group. Aisha and Stephen, Aisha, I must say, just on the side, that this hat is the best I've seen so far. And Stephen, I think you're carrying off that hat that HJ got a lot of rap for yesterday very well.
It keeps my ears warm.
Yes.
It's a little bit snug, but nevertheless, it's fine.
But it is winter, so we're trying to feel better. Are you feeling better, you two, with your hats?
Well, I'm feeling a lot more confident with this hat, so that theory we had about trying on different hats, I think it's working.
I believe so. I had a lot of nerves before coming on, and I must admit, once the hat's on, all those nerves gone.
And your hat's ever so James Dean, HJ, as well.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
There we are.
But we've
right,
been...
what are you talking about anyway, more importantly?
We've had lots of great comments and lots of different things coming up. I think Stephen should start off with his comment.
Well, Sheila, there's a lot of love in the room for you. A real champion and an advocate for those students with disabilities. Lots and lots of positive feedback. Jade actually has come up with a really good couple of comments that I feel are really sincere, and she's saying that doing the Open University is great for people with illness, as each day is different. Jade never knows how she's going to feel from one day to the next, both mentally and physically, but she believes that studying with the Open University has saved her mind, as she hates not working and her brain needs feeding. So I thought that was really lovely.
Oh, that's a lovely comment. Absolutely wonderful. Again, showing the sort of change. And you, and I know a lot of the group, have experienced huge personal growth through studying.
Well, I finished my degrees. I did a double degree, and I finished it in June. And I struggled for funding, but I've now got it. It's been passed and it's sorted. And I start back this Saturday. And from June until now, after having 7 years from my mind doing something, I have struggled for this last 6 months. So I can understand what she's saying. And I'm desperate to start back. I don't know where I'm going to find hours to study, but I'm desperate to start back because I feel, I'm losing out at the minute because I'm not studying.
Yeah, gosh, and only 6 months. I know, it's a bit addictive, isn't it? I think we all find that. Tell us, you'd mentioned struggling for funding, and I just wanted to touch on this because we've been talking earlier in the student support team and briefly touched on applying for disabled students allowances, but it is a separate organisation. Whilst the student support team have some tricks of the trade and they sort of, I guess, know the systems, it is to some extent outside of the Open University's control as an external company. Do your group offer sort of advice? I mean, you must have some hacks, some sort of ways of doing things, because forms, can be really hard to fill out, in particular for certain people. And so is there sort of some help and support? I know the student support team help, again, with some form filling in when that is difficult. But how do you support students applying for that disabled students allowance?
We don't totally support them to fill out the forms. We're not that good. But we do suggest different places to go, because on our website there's some links to different funding. There's the USIT funding that we have. There's certain funding.
Which is the Educational Trust, isn't it?
Yeah.
Run by the association.
There's also the Crowther funding. It's very specific. Again, it's an OU funding. We also have links to several funding that's specific to specific groups, whether it's STEM or Wales or whatever, and we put all that up. So if someone comes on and says that certain things, we do provide information. But some of the biggest struggle is masters funding, because England, if you're 60 plus, you don't get it. Scotland's just changed and they only provide 2/3. So some of these extra links to get extra funding are really important if a student wants to continue on.
Brilliant. No, absolutely. And we put lots and lots of links in the resources page on the Student Hub Live website. So if you'd like to find out any more about these, then do check those out. Sammi, I'd like to end by asking you, you mentioned some of these sort of events that are on, and I don't want to go into any details here, but we asked students if there was a Pride event taking place. So this has been going up and down as we've been talking, but at the moment a lot of people don't know whether or not there is. How might they find out that sort of information generally, and why might they want to go or not go?
Well, I think the Plexus committee, as part of their, one of the, so I think it's, I can't remember the role now, it might be the secretary. I believe they might be putting a list together of all of the Pride events throughout the year, and they're going to be putting that on the website, so that's the first point of call. But I think there's also a student Pride happening in February. I don't know exactly where you can find the details, but I would say get in touch with the Plexus committee and they can direct students into the correct areas for them, basically.
Brilliant. And we've got all of those links to those Facebook groups, etc., again on the resources page. And I'm sure HJ can put those in the chat as well. So the Facebook groups for Plexus and also the Disabled Students Group Facebook pages. Those are often, I think, perhaps the most important contacts. The Facebook page for the Disabled Students Group, briefly explain how that works, because it's a closed group, as I imagine the Plexus one may be.
Yeah, Facebook is closed.
Yeah.
We've just launched a new microsite, a new website. So if you go into the OU Students Association or put in D.S.G. OU, you'll get a link.
Yeah.
So you can bring the link via the OU Students Association, become a member. That will also give you the link to the Facebook site. It'll also give you a link to our closed forums, because some students will discuss things in there that they might not have declared. And it's the same with Plexus. I'm the D.S.G. A member of it, of the committee, and some people might not have came out yet to family or anybody. But if they go in there, everything's closed, everything's secret.
And how do you check then, you know, whether people are allowed in the group if it's closed?
The association deals with it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so the students sign up to Plexus through our website through a web form, and then I think they add themselves to Facebook on their own accord, but they're added to the Plexus membership list as a result of signing up through our website, and then they would get information on the newsletter, and that would probably link them to the Facebook group. So you can find it in various different ways.
And the DSG is the same. You link to, and the association become a member, and they know whether you're registered disabled or not. And once you become a member, you get the Facebook information, and then you come on to us and we make you a member as well.
Brilliant. Well, Sheila and Sammi, thank you so much for coming along. Good luck for your studies. I bet you can't wait to go. And Sammi, I must say a special thank you to you, because you come in at the 11th hour to support a colleague who couldn't be here today. And I think this really just demonstrates how wonderful the association is and how supportive you all are of each other. So thank you for filling us in on that.
No problem.
And all of those links are on the resources page of the website. HJ has been putting them in the chat. Do get involved. They really are fantastic groups. HJ and Stephen, I can see you have changed your hats again. Well done. You're keeping me on my toes.
Sounds rather fetching.
I thought I'd try this one. I'm not sure if this colour is quite right for me, but we've put the link for the OU Students Association in the chat box. There's loads of stuff going on. There's the Freshers Fortnight that we heard about yesterday. So a lot of people are saying, oh, it's good to know that there's other people like me, and there's more people like you out there who will be going to these events and to chat to as well. And there's some great meetups as well. So definitely take a look and bookmark that page for while you're studying as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both very much. OK, we're going to have a short video break now, and then we're coming back to talk about studying over the holidays. Now, this will be particularly interesting if you have a holiday, something like Easter or Christmas or the summer. And if you have school-age children, I think this might be particularly relevant, because they can very much interfere with our plans. So joining me in the next session, we have Katie and Sally from Science, Technology, Engineering and Maths to give us some great advice around studying around the holidays. We'll see you very soon.